What is going on, everybody? It has been a long minute since I got the Canon R6 Mark III. Been shooting it a lot, been learning a lot, and I can tell you this, it is a beast. But one thing about this camera, it is pushing me. It's pushing how much I learn, how fast I learn, and what I want to do. And I can tell you right now that I want to do more than just short clips and YouTube stuff. So I have decided to do Touchstone Pixels' first documentary. But here's the thing, I don't know anything about making a documentary. So I've been digging around and I found an awesome resource, and that is the Filming Wild channel. I'll link it down below. If you're into just checking out some really good wildlife footage, learning about how to do better wildlife footage, and or wanting to learn how to make a documentary, it seems to be a fantastic place to start. And here's another thing. I reached out to the gentleman, Alan Lacey, who's done work for BBC, Disney, National Geographic, and others. And I just said, hey, I'm making my first documentary. Do you think you'd like to help me out? Maybe mentor me a little along the way? And guess what? He said yes. So I am super stoked. I have done what is considered the first part, which is making a plan, and I'm going to ship it over to him now, see what he's got to say. Let's do this. All right, everybody, we got Alan. He's picked up the phone on the other end here. Thank you, Alan. Thanks, man, for doing this. I really appreciate it. Glad to have you on. A little nervous what you think about what I sent you, but it's all going to be fun.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I appreciate being able to jump in and talk film with you. So yeah, excited to see where you take this. Cool.
Well, I sent you the story beats. I've never done nothing like that before. I kind of just poked around online, asked a couple AIs, do you do a full storyboard or what do you do? And it recommended that I should do kind of just the beats for pitching it to somebody, which is kind of what I did to you. Send it over. Curious what you think.
Yeah, so I think like story beats are great for being able to kind of like get your thoughts down on paper so you can like really see how the film is going to look. And I think it's a great starting point to kind of launch into figuring out the overall look and vibe of your story. So, I think what we want to do now is we've got our beats, we know what we want to be able to tell. So
Okay.
we really want to look at how is this story moving, and then you can use that story beat to kind of create like a narrative script. And from that, we're going to really focus on story and what are our character arcs, what's the journey our characters are going on. I know this from yours. You have kind of the story beat of coming out of winter, they get established, they have their spring, they return from their locations, and from there they start fishing, they have their families, etc. They raise their young, and then as winter begins to come on, everything winds down, they migrate out. Typical,
Yeah,
typical little story arc, right? So,
kind of following them through the season. Yeah.
and that's kind of to be expected. You're gonna, a lot of documentaries kind of follow that same vibe. But I think if you want to like stand out a little bit differently or not kind of tell that same story, is
Okay.
let's find out like what's something that a trial or some kind of thing they have to overcome. Maybe it's one of the osprey nests has for whatever reason been removed from the area, and so they have to build a new nest, or maybe it's the struggle of bringing up the kids. Maybe there's some sort of challenge with the seasons, whether it's the summer drought. What's the challenges that they're going to face? Let's maybe focus on one that you can actually film and capture, that you could really focus on as this hurdle they have to get by, so that the payoff at the end, when they successful raising their young, it feels like triumph. I mean, that's your typical documentary, but like if you can find that nice little bit that's gonna like really elevate that story arc that you already have, that's I think where you're gonna really start seeing a little payoff, and create that tension, because you want to create a little bit of tension in your stories.
That's why you're here, man. That's why I brought you in. I know how to shoot wildlife. I don't know how to make a documentary. And what you're saying makes a lot of sense. So kind of focus on struggle and kind of an emotional pull. Give people a reason to be invested and follow the story. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
That's like one of the things too in the beginning. You all when you introduce your characters, right? So you want your audience to attach emotionally to your characters. What are the stakes? You kind of set them up to really invest into your character's narrative across the journey of the story. Um,
Okay.
then when those stakes arrive, and now you have that hurdle, they're way more invested to know what the outcome is for those characters. Are they going to make it? Are your characters, maybe it's not the osprey themselves, but it's actually the babies that they're raising that becomes your main through line. And so now your audience is way more invested. Like, can they get through? Can they survive? Will there be enough food for them to be able to grow and get to the point where they fledge, etc. That those could be stakes that you really put into your story. So you could even set it up where, like, we just had one of the worst winters we've ever had here in the Southwest, right? With hardly any snowpack, so the water levels might be bad. There could be
Tell me about it.
a climate story here that could affect their reproductive abilities. I know here in Phoenix, where I'm at, a lot of the wildlife are having babies a lot later, or if at all. So the climate, the dryness, the lack of rain, moisture has affected the breeding cycles this year for us. This year. So maybe that's going to play in. We don't know. Well, you're going to see this pretty soon when they start their nesting, and maybe that's already started. But you're going to notice, like, maybe there's a big challenge here. So that's worth putting into your story.
Couple ideas come to mind just listening to you talk about that. So I know from doing my research that the chicks have a 50% survival rate. So that right there could be pretty big. And then this place where I'm shooting at, there's kind of a lot of litter. And I know that fishing tackle can be a big problem with the babies because they pick up the sticks and it's got like fishing line tangled up in the stick and they bring it to the nest and the baby gets caught in it. So that's a couple just ideas right there, kind of off the back.
I think those are great ones to look at. If there's a 50% survival rate, that's why often they'll have 2 to 3 young, 4 young, and one makes it.
Okay.
Or two maybe tops. And so with a bad climate year, maybe one, maybe none make it. Like, maybe be prepared for that outcome. Like, how does your story change if none of the chicks survive? You know,
Okay.
keep those in mind. And then it also brings up another good point. Film multiple nests, multiple locations, because it's possible you lose um, all of the chicks in one, and that doesn't fit the story you want. Maybe that ends up becoming a really dynamic story, so you could focus there. But if you really want to have that success of the chicks being raised to adulthood and they fledge, then definitely
Yeah.
film multiple locations as
I
much.
kind of decided on that because a lot of stuff was like, pick your heroes and follow them. I was like, man, I'm doing this for 8 months. What if 1 month in, the heroes don't make it? So I kind of got like 5, 6 nests that I have my ideas on. 3 are pretty good for filming.
Yeah,
So,
ideal, because then you're going to film them in flight, hunting, fishing, whatever, and if they're in the generalized vicinity of similar look, I mean, you can cut a different family, and you don't have to use the same family for only that footage. So you can definitely splice in other ospreys in flight. If the nests look different, that's obviously different. But
yeah.
if you're tight in on a nest and you can't tell the difference, then you can use that as part of the magic of storytelling. You don't have to stay strictly to those particular characters unless they look drastically different. So
Okay.
yeah, you can absolutely use footage from Mother Osprey to help tell your story. Obviously, you want to focus as much as you can on your main characters, but use the other ones as supplemental to help tell those. If you don't have like good good sequences of them hunting in that area, then you can use other sequences from other Osprey families to do that.
Okay.
Absolutely acceptable
Um,
in the documentary world.
so the story thing, I'm guessing I could just kind of interweave that into I have winter bookends and then spring, summer, fall. Probably just weave that in and I could still keep kind of the same structure, but
Yeah, you can definitely keep that same structure, but again, like, you look at you in like act one. Let's say if you have a traditional 3 act story where act one is like your intro, you meet your characters, who they are. Act two is like there's the problem solving. What are the stakes? What's the drama that plays out? And act three is the resolution, kind of. If you follow that typical, then you can apply what they call the hero's journey to your main characters. So they're going to have something they're going to overcome. It may not look good, but then suddenly they do, and then bam, there's the success at the end. So interweave that into each one of your acts. So act one, you might introduce characters, you get emotionally connected, but then it's like, what are the stakes? Maybe you'd be like, as you transition to act two, you can have simple narrative that basically kind of says something to the line of like, they've arrived, everything looks great, but their future is uncertain, or the seasons, but this is not a good year. Or you have some sort of qualifying statement that transitions the stakes. Like, what are they?
Okay.
And then I would say from your beat, story beat document that we're looking at here, I would take this a step further now and start writing like a narrative script. Think about how you would visually describe your sequences, so that way you know how you're going to capture your footage. Because documentary film, yeah, you go out and you capture your footage and you kind of figure out how to craft your story. But if you do as much work on the front end, so you're thinking visually, like what I would, I'm just going to pull something out of nothing real quick here. So if, let's say you have this sequence start out snow falling and you see the scenes play out, and you're going to do what they call, like, you're going to show the end right at the beginning, and then
Yeah.
you show them successful flying off and migrating. Then it cuts to spring, and now you're seeing the warmth of the air come in. Like, you find footage that creates, or shoot footage that emulates the warmth, the spring, the melt of snow, the drips of water off of ice or trees, etc. The river flowing more, the cuts to maybe a few of the tree stands, maybe not the nest yet. You're just going to tease it in, paint the landscape of the environment that they are. And then your narrative would then be like, there's a location here that is in the Southwest. It's a harsh environment. It's a harsh landscape. There's lots of heat, harsh winters, but one animal rises above it all, or something that kind of now you introduce your character. So you're thinking shot by shot how you grab each one of those like components of your sequence that you're going to build into it, and then you're going to write the narrative on one end, part of your document, and on the other part of the document you're going to have your visuals. So like as narrative matches your visual, like
Okay.
osprey arrives, osprey lands on tree, tight shot of osprey face.
Okay. Storyboard.
Very
But
much.
yeah, is that pretty typical with documentaries that you do the voiceover narration early, like before?
Yep, a lot of the work
Okay.
I've done and worked on for different networks, etc., they have everything. Now, obviously, it changes once they go in and get their footage. But if you
Yeah.
have the framework set up ahead of time, now you know how you're gonna, like, what you need to go out and actually film to match
Okay.
the story. And then when you capture your story, obviously, yeah, things might change. You may not have the stuff that you thought you could get, but then that's where you go in and you change your narrative a bit. But that's how you
Okay.
set everything up. So if you think about what are you going to say in your film, if you start crafting that now, just the generalized, your story arc, right? Your spring, summer, winter, and how they're going to move through based on the natural behavior of osprey. So you can craft the narrative to match what you expect
Awesome.
and what you want to film behaviorally. And then as the season plays out, when things change, and they will, that's where the fun part comes in, because now you're like, how does this fit into the narrative I want to tell? Does it? Does it not? If it does not, can I still tell the story I want to tell by getting it elsewhere? Or maybe this is where the pivot occurs, and now you have a new stake, or a new challenge they have to overcome that you didn't expect. That happens a lot too. So that's where the fun part of storytelling comes in. But the more you have your framework at the beginning, the more dynamic your story can be at the end, versus having a crude idea, running out in the field, capturing a bunch of footage, and then coming back in and like now you're playing Tetris to figure out how to put it together. I've done that, and trust me, a lot of work.
It makes sense. And I can kind of already like see in my mind how I'm shaping things a little differently now. I guess, like I said, it's my first documentary, shot a lot of wildlife, but I think maybe what I was kind of doing was a book report in video format. Like, here's them going through the season, here's their wingspan, here's the size of the nest, here's blah, blah, blah. And it sounds like I want to take this more into a story form and just kind of pull on emotions. And am I kind of getting it?
Well, that's absolutely right. I mean, from a looking at it from like a book report perspective, like some documentaries they'll do that more, and they'll just kind of like spit facts at you, like the osprey is one of the North America's most prolific fishing eagles, and
Yeah.
then it goes into like the size of their talons, the size of their wingspan, and how long their migration routes go for them, so it's like that's all interesting information. How can you weave that in naturally into your narrative where maybe you see them diving, catching a fish, and now you can talk about the specificalities of how they're designed in flight to be able to do that, how they can catch a fish. So you incorporate that into the narrative a little bit more rather than just being like, Osprey's 101. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Or even more, show it, don't tell it. And because what you're explaining kind of it seems like it fits my shooting style more. Like I like the real cinematic and, slow B-roll and soft light and all that. So that kind of sounds like it lined up with story more than just spitting facts at people.
Yes. One thing I tell people is if you think about story, obviously that's your king. Story is the king of everything. So you really want to like focus on that. Make sure it's good because a good story is going to go places. A film that just shows what's happening doesn't. That's just a reaction film basically. So if you can work on that story, but then the big thing is if you can watch your film without listening to audio, don't listen to narrative. If you can feel the story based off of those visuals and you know what's happening, the storyline just from simply watching it silently, now you've visually told the story the way you need to tell it.
Okay.
You need narration to connect A to B with your visuals, then I would say work on getting your visuals a little bit to the point where they can tell the story completely cohesively without having to use audio. Now, then audio at that point can be sparse and poignant. It hits the points you really need in your narrative. So, in this
So a
first
little more poetic narrative, kind of.
poetic, or it doesn't have to be poetic. It can just be like you're watching the visuals and you're using the narrative to kind of just accent what your brain is already picking up. Um,
Okay.
but not overdoing it. You don't need to say like the osprey's flying from the nest to go hunt fish. Obviously, they're going to be seeing that, but
Yeah.
when they visually see it and then it goes and hunts, now you can use something in the emotional that comes up from the footage, and you can use that as inspiration for your narrative too. So obviously, you're going to have your framework from the beginning that you want to tell. Then when you get your footage, you adjust it to match your footage. So now when that housebreak hunts, instead of saying she's going from the nest to hunt tree, your can be like, this is the lifeblood for its young, the food it catches. Something that has a little more meaning behind what you're seeing versus it just being an observational narrative point.
Okay. That makes sense. Got a little bit of reworking to do,
Yeah.
but I kind of like the direction you're leading me in here.
I mean, generally speaking, you got good framework, I would say, from your storyboard and your beats, etc. So it's just a matter of like, if you can think shot by shot, is this a 10-minute, 15-minute? What's your total runtime, you think? 15?
I'm shooting for around 15 minutes.
So, what you would then do is if you built out your storyboard with your visuals, and your story and narrative script, then that's also going to help you carve out, is this actually going to fit within a 15 minutes? So am I able to tell this story in 15 minutes? And then you'll see shot by shot how you need to do that, which is going to be
Yeah.
cool. So I think that's a really good, and it's a good exercise in storytelling too, because it's kind of like editing the film before you edit the film.
The biggest limit for me is hard drive space and battery capacity and SD cards. That's why I said on 15 minutes. And it's my first one. It's kind of like when I do my short films, I try and keep them short, but deliver as best as I can in a short amount of time
Yeah.
rather than making people watch through 20 minutes of crap
I
or 30 minutes or an hour.
totally understand that. And that's one thing is if you can tell a short story well, then the longer stories are better to in there. It's almost harder to tell a shorter story than it is a longer story. So it's good, definitely good practice to really like dial in your ability to craft those narratives within like 15 minutes, 10 minutes even.
Oh, yeah.
If you get it down to 20 minutes, how can you make it 15 and make it better? And,
Yeah.
and then when you get to 15, it's like, can I get it to 10? Yes, no. Think in terms of how to really be efficient with your time and your narrative.
Okay. Okay. All right, man. So this has been super helpful. I really appreciate you doing it. I think we covered a lot of ground. I hope it's helping everybody watching out. And guess just talk about what's next. So we've kind of agreed that I'll contact you every once in a while. You'll pop in here, give me some advice, maybe show up to shoot one day. I don't know. But
That'd be a lot of fun, honestly.
yeah, that would be awesome. But I think the next step, maybe, I don't know, in a month or so, I'll drop you some footage and see what you think of my early footage. And then from there, maybe like a rough draft. We'll touch points on some audio some point, and then see what you think of the whole thing come probably November or something. What do you think? You enjoying this and
Yeah,
mentor me along the way?
this is great. I always love being able to help express like how storytelling is told, and I enjoy because like from my perspective, um when I started in the filmmaking world, I didn't have the guidance really. I mean, I had people giving me feedback, but I learned a lot on my own. I had to do a lot of research. I had a lot of failures to get it. So for me, it's like, I love being able to help support and teach and share and mentor as I can. Obviously, I'm getting busier now, so it's nice to be able to do like the way we're doing it, structured periodically. It's much easier, especially
Yeah.
being a new father too. But I love it. I enjoy this component of it, and I think it's great to pay it forward to be able to share my knowledge, pass it on, make it easier for people like you to jump into the filmmaking world. So yeah, this has been a lot of fun. So thank you for the opportunity also. But I'm glad that we're able to do this. And hopefully maybe I will make it out there and shoot with you one day
That
then.
would be, I mean, it's an amazing location, tons of wildlife. I can promise you, you won't go home without that. But let me, I mean, I'm the type of guy I reach out to people all the time, hoping to hear something back. And you're one of the first ones to get back to me and just say, hey, yeah, this sounds great. Let's do it. So really appreciate it
Oh, you're welcome.
very much.
Well, my only request in that is pay it forward whenever you get the opportunity in life to do the same. So
For sure.
yeah.
That'll
And
be total.
touch points, yeah, that we can move in a month or so, look at your footage. I'm happy to provide any critique or advice or thoughts that come to mind when I look at it. Main thing, obviously, this you're not gonna have really much of the full story yet, but just kind of seeing
No.
how you're putting it together. What you could do, not to extend the call here a little bit, but it's as you film varying parts, you can start putting together those little bits, those little sequences that kind of, and you can share that with me so I can see kind of how you're going to tell a story sequentially. If it's hunting, how are you going to tell that story? So you can, put together those sequences in like a 2-minute bit
Okay.
that I can read to you. That'd be helpful because then I can see how you're going to cut it together, how you edit it. Don't worry about color or sound, just visuals only. So
I'm kind of hoping at the end of each season to get a rough draft dropped in just so that come November, I'm not like looking at 2,000 clips going, what do I do? So,
bring up a really important point, and that is when you edit as you produce, as you film, and you'll see, oh, I'm missing this particular behavior shot, whatever and you'll know I need to go get that. That's one of the huge benefits of editing it as you move along versus at the end. And then you're at the end, you're like, oh crap, I didn't get what I need. Then you got to wait until next year because it's next season. If you're editing it in the winter, for example, you have to wait till next spring to get that shot or summer or whenever. So it's good to edit along the way. That way, if you miss something, you can go get it or to at least.
awesome. That makes total sense.
Mhm.
Well, what do you say, man? Cheers. Till
Cheers.
next time.
Till next time. Pleasure, Brent.
Thank you very much, man. Thank you. I hope you guys enjoyed that conversation. I know I got a lot of great info out of it. Be sure to go check out Alan's YouTube. Got some amazing stuff over there. And I've been sitting with this talk for a few beats now, thinking about what he said, and I have made some changes. So just a little reflection now for you guys. I've updated the story beats. I'll put the whole thing down in the description. This is more of a public facing story beats. It doesn't have all my notes and all the in-depth stuff, but just so you guys can see my kind of train of thought. I'm focused more on story now and to help you write your own story beats if this is something you're interested in. I have also created the full voiceover rough draft for the whole thing, focusing on the story I want to tell. This I'm not going to share with you guys because you got to watch the final film to find out what I said about these amazing birds. And I have also been working on my storyboard. I did have a storyboard that was kind of just a grid layout that I had AI help make the images for. Now I'm focusing a little bit more on taking frames from some stuff I've shot and just putting a little more detail in there. And I think that will be extremely beneficial. So this was a great meeting for me. And just to let you guys know, I shot the winter footage in winter because I knew I was doing this. Took me a little while to get this video together. So we're a bit in the spring now, and I have been out. I have been shooting some great stuff. You've probably seen a little bit of the behind the scenes. And just want to invite you guys to follow me along, be dropping the whole thing, as I said, in November, and lots of behind the scenes stuff along the way. And I can't wait till the next conversation with Alan. And I'm just looking forward to this whole process. Hope you guys are as well. All right, later.